Honestly, the best way I could describe these books are junk food. Pure junk food. And what I mean by that is it's predictable, it's an easy read, it's got some spice. Welcome back to another book review. Now, the book we're going to be talking about today is King of Pride by Anna Hong. This is the second book in the King of Sin series, so if you do not want it spoiled for you, go ahead and skip this review. But I will say, aside from a few mentions here and there, this focuses on two completely different characters, so you could really read each one as a standalone, but it does spoil what happens in the first one through mention, so if you don't want that spoiled for you, then I would skip this review. But if you don't really care about that, you could honestly read this by itself, or read the first one by itself. They're kind of connected standalones in a way. So, with that being said, let's get into the characters of this book. The characters of this book are Isabella and Kai. Isabella is living in the big city of New York, and she's a bartender. And she doesn't think very highly of herself because she is a job hopper. She doesn't know yet what she wants to do for a career. She has an idea of wanting to be an author, but she doesn't know if that's going to pan through. And then you have Kai, the billionaire boy who always has to be right about everything and always has to be the best at everything. And it's sort of like this opposites attract thing. I like both the characters. I like their dynamic. I like how they work with each other. I just think it's cute. And with that being said, let's get into my thoughts about this book. Honestly, the best way I could describe these books are junk food. Pure junk food. And what I mean by that is it's predictable, it's an easy read, it's got some spice in it, but it's mainly about watching Isabella and Kai grow closer as a couple and learn to work together. At first, Kai comes off as a little bit kind of stalkery because they meet because Isabella is working at the club Valhalla, and that's a high-end club in New York, and she's a bartender there, and Kai comes there almost every time she's there to see her. So in a way that starts off a little stalkery and kind of strange, but we see through Kai kind of trying to get to know her that she sneaks off into the club to play piano, which is another one of her hidden talents, I guess. And Kai, understandably miffed at this, and being the King of Pride, has to show her up in his piano playing skills. But he lacks the passion and the natural talent of it that Isabella has. So he prides himself on becoming better than her at it. And that's kind of the thing. Whereas Dante was very wrathful and would fly off the handle the second someone did something he didn't like, Kai is very prideful and has to be first and best at everything. And you see a girl that thinks she's good at nothing start to fall for a guy that thinks he has to be good at everything. And it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet scenario going on, because Kai's family doesn't like Isabella because she is this temp job having bartender who doesn't amount to much. At least at first that's what they think. But it turns out she is also the heir and daughter of a high up CEO position. So that kind of took the fun of it away for me just a little bit, because I liked the lower standing, higher standing scenario going on. It made like an opposites attract sort of thing, but then you started to make them more similar by having the fact that she is also in money. There is beauty in the opposites attract sort of thing. Sure, you still have the opposites attract because Kai is very stiff and very rigid and very prideful in his appearance and his demeanor and the way he conducts himself, whereas Isabella is kind of dyed hair, is caught talking about inappropriate things at work, and just free-spirited. So you kind of have the opposites attract going on there. But like I said, these books are pure junk food, and they're just something to read if you want a cozy read. Yes, there is spice in the book. That's a topic for a whole nother day. Like, I feel like fantasy is starting to be pushed out of its own category in favor of having spice in the books. Like, we already have romance books. Can we keep the spicy to the romance books? Like, I remember when I was reading the ACOTAR series that a friend practically threw at me because she realized that 97% of my bookshelf was fantasy. And here, I looked it up, and it was in the young adult category, so I'm like, ooh, cool, fun fantasy. So imagine my surprise when later on in the book, there was a fully detailed, fully descriptive sex scene, and I'm like, whoa! Or reading Fourth Wing for there to be a scene where the dragons were doing the thing, and Violet and Xaden could feel it and almost did it too. Weirdest thing I've ever read. I feel like romance is starting to take over fantasy, and I don't know if I like that because it's starting to become harder and harder to find a purely fantasy book no matter what you do. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't hate sex in books, but I don't read books for sex. I read books for the story, the adventure, the growth of the characters, the love of the characters themselves. Like, in the moments where Kai and Isabella were just being themselves and just spending time together was so cute and had me smiling from ear to ear because they are a cute couple. They do have really good chemistry. You don't need to add that in just to keep me reading. I'm reading for the characters and for the cutesy moments they have. This series is really good at just being cozy. They're predictable, I will say. It's honestly predictable, but that's part of the comfort in it. The predictability did not hurt my enjoyment of this book at all, and they're junk food. They're pure junk food. They're not the best for you to be reading, but they sure are fun and they sure are a good time. Like, this is the book equivalent of junk food, and it was just cozy to read. And that being said, I'm going into my blind date with a book that I got. If you saw my short on that, I'm going into Kingdom of the Wicked. I'm actually, like, how many pages in? 67 pages in. And I am so intrigued. I want to find out who and why they killed her sister. And I'm kind of glad this was my blind date with a book. Because not only is the cover gorgeous, and the edges too, but I'm intrigued. I almost didn't want to go to bed last night, even though it was nearly 12:30. I was like, no, I want to find out. But I was literally starting to fall asleep here in my chair. But I might read this as soon as I'm done recording this. Who knows? I don't. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Bye, guys.